Victim or participant? That's the question surrounding one of the most controversial women in the entire Epstein case. Court documents describe Sarah Kellen as Jeffrey Epstein's right hand. Multiple witnesses allege she helped coordinate appointments and manage parts of Epstein's inner circle. But now, Sarah Kellen says she was tightly controlled inside that network, influenced, manipulated, psychologically affected for years. And the deeper you look into her background, the harder it becomes to understand where influence ends and responsibility begins. Because before Epstein, Sarah Kellen came from a completely different world: strict religion, isolation, an early marriage, and a life that appears to have already been unraveling long before Epstein entered the picture. So who is Sarah Kellen really? A vulnerable young woman pulled into Epstein's system, or someone who became one of its most important operators? And keep watching to the end, because later in this video, we'll reveal the 3 powerful men Sarah Kellen recently named to congressional investigators as Epstein's co-conspirators. Before Epstein, Sarah Kellen reportedly grew up in a Jehovah's Witness environment in North Carolina. That matters because former members often describe it as highly insular, where leaving can mean losing your entire social world overnight. Friends, family, community, gone. Kellen married at the young age of 17, which was common in the Jehovah's Witness faith. The marriage lasted roughly 3 years. According to reporting, Kellen was later disfellowshipped from the Jehovah's Witness community. Her parents claimed this followed what they described as an immoral lifestyle, including art modeling and fashion photography work. In that system, disfellowshipping means formal exclusion, not just from the church, but often from the wider social and family network connected to it. And according to the family's account, this period coincided with a growing estrangement between Kellen and her parents, who said they had little visibility into her life after she left home. At some point during this broader period, she reportedly met a much older photographer, Robert Coelho. He produced a series of artistic photographs of her during this period, images that later surfaced in legal contexts and depositions, and became part of the broader discussion about her early trajectory. Taken together, this period reflects a significant rupture in her early adult life, a marriage that had broken down, a religious community she was removed from, and a family relationship that was fading. Then comes the turning point. She reportedly meets someone offering her a job opportunity, a role connected to a wealthy financier, Jeffrey Epstein. Around the early 2000s, Sarah Kellen entered Epstein's world as an assistant, but according to lawsuits and survivor testimony, her role quickly appeared to grow far beyond that. Witnesses say she scheduled massages and coordinated movements, helping manage logistics within Epstein's inner circle. Some legal filings even described her as Epstein's right hand, and survivor accounts described a much more complicated picture. In the documentary Surviving Jeffrey Epstein, survivor Teresa Helm described being approached directly by Kellen on Santa Monica Beach. According to Teresa, Sarah didn't seem threatening. She seemed relatable, warm, trustworthy. Teresa recalled Kellen describing a dreamlike future, travel, luxury, opportunity, a completely transformed life. At one point, Teresa says Sarah told her, "Imagine the most grand, incredible life you could want." Virginia Giuffre described Kellen as highly effective at building Epstein's team. Someone who could make Epstein's world sound aspirational instead of dangerous. And this is where public perception around Sarah Kellen hardened, not as another trapped young woman, but as someone actively helping the system expand. But years later, Sarah Kellen told a completely different story about herself. In congressional testimony, Kellen alleged she'd been psychologically manipulated, and worse, by Epstein over many years. She described Epstein as highly influential and psychologically controlling, at one point saying it was like living with a permanent virtual reality headset on. She also said Ghislaine referred to her in subordinate terms, including minion. And according to Kellen, the public fundamentally misunderstood the power dynamics inside Epstein's world. She says she had zero power or authority. That's the contradiction at the center of everything, because many survivors remember Sarah Kellen very differently. Not powerless, not trapped, but organized and trusted, embedded deep inside the machinery surrounding Epstein. And that raises the uncomfortable question at the center of the story. Can someone be both victim and participant? Not only is Sarah Kellen now publicly reframing her own role inside Epstein's world, she's also started naming other powerful men she claims were connected to it. In testimony to the House Oversight Committee, Kellen reportedly identified 3 new individuals in her testimony. According to CNN, these names included Frederick Fekkai, the celebrity hairstylist, Philip Levine, former Miami Beach mayor and businessman, and Patrick DeMarchelier, the famous fashion photographer. None of the men have been charged in connection to Epstein's crimes, and the allegations remain contested. And in a follow-up video, we're going to break down exactly who those men are, and why Kellen's claims could reopen major questions about how far Epstein's network really reached. Part of what makes this so disturbing is Epstein's world was built on influence, wealth, status, and personal dependency. And if Sarah Kellen's account is true, then her trajectory starts to make more psychological sense. A vulnerable young woman enters the orbit of an older, ultra-wealthy man with enormous power. Over time, her housing, her income, her identity, and even her entire reality become tied to him. And when people revisit her earlier life now, the religious isolation, the divorce, the instability, the sudden identity shift, and those early art photos, some believe Epstein didn't transform Sarah Kellen from nothing. He identified vulnerability that was already there. That doesn't erase the accusations against her, but it may explain how someone can become deeply embedded inside a coercive system while also being psychologically trapped by it. And that ambiguity is exactly why Sarah Kellen remains one of the most unsettling figures in the Epstein story. For years, Sarah Kellen stayed mostly silent. Now she's speaking publicly again. In congressional interviews, lawmakers described her testimony as some of the most substantive they've received so far. And for the first time publicly, she is attempting to reposition herself, not as Epstein's accomplice, but as another person psychologically consumed by the same system. Whether people believe that explanation is another question entirely, because for many observers, the allegations against Sarah Kellen remain impossible to separate from the role she allegedly played inside Epstein's world. And that's what makes her story so difficult, not because the answers are obvious, but because they aren't. In upcoming videos, we're going to break down the 3 men that Kellen named in her testimony. Who they are, how they were allegedly connected to Epstein's world, and why those names matter. We're also going to go deeper into Sarah Kellen's own transformation from a Jehovah's Witness teenager in North Carolina to one of the most controversial figures inside Epstein's inner circle. So if you want the full breakdown as new details emerge, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn notifications on, because this story is still unfolding, and the deeper you go, the more complicated it gets.